The deep connection between science, maths and music is reflected in the many examples of scientists who've played or composed music and musicians who've been inspired by science or science fiction. Einstein famously said, "Life without playing music is inconceivable to me. I live my daydreams in music. I see my life in terms of music. I get most joy in life out of music." Max Planck, one of the founders of quantum mechanics, was a gifted pianist with perfect pitch, who almost opted for music as a career over physics. Einstein spoke of Planck's artistic need that drove him to creative achievements. In Berlin, the two joined forces with fellow physicist Arnold Sommerfeld and Planck's son Erwin for trio or quartet evenings in which they played for students and colleagues, such as Lise Meitner and Otto Hahn. Einstein and Planck, two of the chief architects of modern physics, turned to music not merely to relax but to free their minds and inspire their thinking. "It is not logic," said Planck, "but the creative imagination which ignites the first flash of insight in the spirit of the researcher who is advancing into dark regions. And without imagination, new fruitful ideas do not present themselves." William Herschel, the German-born British astronomer who discovered Uranus in 1781, was a multi-instrumentalist and prolific composer of symphonies and concertos. Russian composer Alexander Borodin was also a research chemist who discovered the aldol reaction important in organic synthesis. In fact, he regarded himself primarily as a scientist who composed in his spare time. It was the other way around for Edward Elgar, who made a career out of music while taking a serious amateur interest in chemistry and cryptography. Mathematicians and musicians share a common bond. The American popular maths writer Martin Gardner commented, "A surprising proportion of mathematicians are accomplished musicians. Is it because music and mathematics share patterns that are beautiful?" Composer and lyricist Stephen Sondheim underscored what musicians have known for more than 2 millennia. Math and music are intimately related, not necessarily on a conscious level, but sure. Those connections between musicians, scientists and mathematicians extend to the present day and run deep into many forms of popular music. Olivia Newton-John's maternal grandfather was the physicist Max Born, who won the 1954 Nobel Prize for his research in quantum mechanics. Her father was the MI5 officer Brinley Newton-John, who helped break the Enigma codes. "There's a kind of a line between music and maths," she said, "so I guess I got the music gene, thank goodness. But my mother wasn't too thrilled. She wanted me to go to university and get a degree or do something, and my father, he liked opera, so he wasn't too thrilled either." Jimi Hendrix drew inspiration from reading science fiction while on the road. He turned the purplish haze in Philip Jose Farmer's Night of Light into the psychedelic rock classic Purple Haze. But he went beyond weaving sci-fi themes into songs by composing, with his producer-manager Chas Chandler, space rock epics that expanded the possibilities of the electric guitar and the recording studio. Brian May did research in astrophysics before becoming sidetracked for a few decades by a project called Queen. He finally completed his PhD in 2007, aged 60, and now divides his time between astronomy and music. Physicist and science popularizer Brian Cox was the keyboard player with bands Dare and Dream. Guy Garvey of Elbow is an avid amateur astronomer. Art Garfunkel has a master's degree in mathematics, and numerous other rock and pop musicians have drawn inspiration from science and science fiction. David Bowie's Space Oddity was released just 5 days before the crew of Apollo 11 blasted off for the moon. Following the publication of my book Weird Maths, co-authored with Agnijo Banerjee, I was invited to talk at the Edinburgh Science Festival. The choir I sing with here in Dundee, the Notables, thought it would be a good idea, and so it proved, to bookend the presentation with songs that we prepared for the occasion, including Calculus Rhapsody and Tom Lehrer's That's Mathematics. More recently, I've produced the Science Fiction Rock Experience, a show that combines the sounds of progressive rock with themes such as Frankenstein, Princess of Mars, and When Worlds Collide. Another of our band's offerings is a new version of Mars from Gustav Holst's The Planets. At the time Holst wrote his orchestral suite between 1914 and 1917, only 7 planets other than Earth were known. British composer Colin Matthews added Pluto, the renewer, in 2000, although 6 years later Pluto was demoted to dwarf planet status at a meeting of the International Astronomical Union. The links between music and thoughts about our place in the scheme of things have never been more strongly emphasized. The ancient concept of the music of the spheres is now celebrated, in updated form, at annual festivals of music and science, such as Blue Dot at the Jodrell Bank Observatory in Cheshire, near where I grew up, and Starmus, an international gathering that celebrates astronomy, space exploration, music, and art.